All right, Wednesday, you have a test on, or quiz on proportional relationships. You need to answer 2 questions. Is this proportional? And what is the constant? Like, those are our 2 goals on that quiz, okay? Now, we have talked about this for 2 weeks. Last week, our goal, or 2 weeks ago, our goal was to tell, is it proportional from a table? And the other week it was, is it proportional from a graph? All right, we're going to review that very quickly. Find a space to write it down. It does not matter where. If I were to provide you with a table that looked like this, and I asked you, is this table proportional? I want you to look at this table. I want you to think about it. Now I'm going to ask you, raise your hand if you think, yes, this table is proportional. Yes, it is proportional. All right? If you think it is not proportional, raise your hand and say, no, it is not proportional. All right? I would like a defense of each. So most people said it is not proportional. So, Tyler, tell us why it's not proportional.
I think it's not proportional because none of them, 9 is not an even number, and 9 can't go into 22 and be even. And 7.5 and 3, you can't multiply 3 by anything to get 7.5 or 6.
So you're trying to multiply across, and you can't see that there's even an integer that I can multiply by, okay? That's true. That's true. Does anybody else have another reason why they think this is not proportional? All right, Madison, can you tell us why it is proportional?
It is proportional because each 3, there's another 7.5, like how 3 times 2 is 6, and 7.5 times 2 is 15.
So you're looking at it from a, like, scaling up, are these equivalent ratios? That's how you're looking at it. Is this ratio equivalent to this ratio? And that's really how we test. We need to test y over x. And everyone in here needs to write this down, get it tattooed on your hand, get it tattooed on your head, on your forehead backwards, so when you look in the mirror, you see y over x in the mirror. You can't forget y over x. This is almost a fourth of our curriculum can be understood if you understand the idea of the relationship between y and x tells me my constant rate. Okay? So, with that being said, we need to test every ratio to see if every ratio has a constant rate. That's what Tyler was looking for, and he said that he could not come up with a number to multiply. Well, sometimes it's not apparent what we need to multiply by, so the way we test it is by dividing y over x. So if I do 7.5 divided by 3, 15 divided by 6, 22.5 divided by 9, and 25 divided by 10, do I get the same number every time? What is that number, Gigi?
2.5.
It's 2.5. And Tyler, you were correct that this is not just, there's not just an integer like a whole number that I can multiply by, but it doesn't have to be a whole, it could be a decimal or a fraction. That's why we have to test to see, are these equivalent ratios? Okay? Every time you're going to test y over x for every ratio given and see if it comes out to be a constant number. If the number is the same, we call that a proportional relationship. Okay? That means x can be multiplied by this constant in order to get y. Now, let's say I gave you this table and I wanted to include the values y is 45 and x is 60. How would you go about completing this table? Can you complete this table? Can we determine what x value would go here? If you're watching the video, think on your own. How could you figure out the x value that would complete the ratio here? When y is 45, what is x? All right, Gigi, what are you thinking?
You divide 45 by 2.5.
One possible way to do this is to divide 45 by 2.5. That's not very easy math. It's nice if you have a calculator. It probably works nicely. Think about this idea here that Madison was talking about, right? She's looking to see are the ratios scaling up by the same multiple. Do we have a y value that we could easily scale up to 45? Danica, do you see one? What value could I multiply and get 45? Which of those y values? 9, okay, 9 is our x value though. I'm looking at the y values, right? My y value is 45. Is there any of these other y values that I could multiply in order to get 45?
15
15?
times 3.
Agree, Danica? So I could take 15, I could multiply it by 3, right? So if I multiplied 15 by 3, what would be my x value? 18. And you're thinking about this as equivalent ratios. So 15 over 6, y over x, is equal to 45 over what? Well, this is
18.
multiplied by 3. This is multiplied by 3. 18. So we're just looking at this as how do I create an equivalent ratio, or really an equivalent fraction, okay? Using that same thinking, can you find one of these x values that you could use if x were to be 60? At this point, we should all be on board because we just did it on the other side, so everybody should be able to do this now, I believe. Alexis, do you see an x value that could be multiplied in order to get to 60? Three, 6, 9, 10, 18, any of those, could I multiply by them and get 10? All right, let's pick 10. What would I multiply 10 by?
6.
By 6. So that means I would have to multiply 25 by 6. Can anybody do that math in their head?
Yeah,
220.
25, like 25 cents. If you had 6 quarters, you would have
$1.50.
150, right? So 60 out of 10, or 60 to 10 is the same as, that's not, I'm sorry, I wrote that. You could think about it this way, but we're not going to do that. 25 to 10 is the same as 60 to 150. We're multiplying by 6. Good? Does everybody feel confident in your ability to, 1, determine if this is proportional by doing y over x? 2, identify the constant, 2.5, and then bonus skill, could you fill in a missing value? Okay, I don't even know that that's going to be on our quiz. I don't think it is. I think we remove those questions because I'm trying to make this as easy as I can to give you the chance to pass it, okay? It may be on there still, but we took a lot of that off. All right. That's our first representation. Second representation, can we do it on a graph? Okay? I have a graph here. How can I tell if this graph is proportional? Got 1, 2, 3, 4 hands up, 5 hands up, 6 hands up. You know, can you tell if the graph's proportional? You can. Michael, can you? We spent a lot of time on this last week. Jason, tell us how I know the graph's proportional.
First of all, it has to be 0, 0.
Has to include the point 0, 0. And
Also, a straight line.
has to be a straight line. Does this meet both of our criteria?
Yep.
Yes, so it is proportional. Check, proportional. Okay, we'll put checks next to both of them. Check, check, proportional. Now, the other skill that we must be able to do from a graph is identify the constant. Here, how am I going to identify the constant? If you're at home and you're looking at the graph, think about it. How could I find, and here's the real question. We're provided ratios in a table over here. Here, how do I find the ratios that I need to find the constant? How would I identify the ratios in this graph? Gigi, how do I pull out the ratios?
Where one meets the first number is your constant.
Okay, so you are correct. Gigi said that I can tell where my constant, that went in if you're watching at home. I'm just kidding, I lied. All right, constant or unit rate is always when x is equal to 1. So we can identify the constant here by looking at x is 1, y is 2, our constant or our unit rate is 2. Okay, now, let's say maybe there's not a point when x is 1. Maybe it doesn't pass directly through an intersection in our graphing grid here. Like there's not, we can't quite tell what the point is when x is 1. How would I find a ratio that I could use to find the constant? All right, Gigi, back to you.
Where two whole numbers meet up.
I want to see where they meet up, right? So like I could look here at this graph and I could actually pull out ratios. And I've got points at 1, 2, 2, 4, 3, 6, 4, 8. It's the same as if this information was communicated to me in a table. Right? That would be a table that communicates the exact same information. So how do we find a constant in a graph? The exact same way we do from a table. Y over x. Now, if it's a straight line through 0, 0, I already know it's proportional. So to find the constant, all I need to do is take any of these ratios and test to see what the constant is. Pick a ratio. Anyone? Lindley, pick a ratio. Which of these ordered pairs do we want to use to create our ratio? 3, 6. I love it. 6 over 3. What is our constant? 2. Right? That's what Gigi said to begin with. 1, 2. That's where our constant is. If you can do all that, you're not only going to pass your quiz, you're probably going to make 100.